Well, hello out there. Thank you to everyone who is joining us. My name is Annette Richmond, and this is the Smarter Career Moves LinkedIn Live show. I'm so excited to be here today with Sabrina Woods. We met very recently, and Hannah Morgan actually suggested that I meet you and have you on my show, which is good enough for me. And when I looked at your profile and I see how you're approaching this whole idea of holistic career coaching, I'm just very excited to chat with you today. So for anyone who does not know you, can you tell us just a little bit about, who you are and what you do?
Sure. And Annette, the last time I saw you, it was on your show and Hannah was on it. So it's really fun to, I saw one of those LinkedIn Lives. Little did I know that I'd be showing up here a few months later. So thank you so much for the invitation. This is a topic I love to talk about because I think we can really make an impact on our well-being. But a little bit about me. I am, again, Sabrina Woods. I'm a holistic career and life coach, as well as an international trainer and a keynote speaker. But coming back to the coaching work, I get a chance, and I'm very honored to do so, to help people with major career transitions. And many of them are mid-career or midlife, and they've got so many other dynamics going on. And so stress is a really popular topic, as you can imagine, in that kind of work. In the other part of my work, the other bucket is that I facilitate workshops and do speaking engagements. And my topics can range from LinkedIn. I love teaching about LinkedIn, all the way through Myers-Briggs and resilience and well-being are other topics, positive psychology, little tiny smidge of neuroscience. I'm getting really curious about the neuroscience of stress lately. So the more I can learn, my attitude is, the more I can help my clients with their well-being, and to be honest, with my own as well. So thanks again for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to have you here, and I feel very much the same way. I try to learn all the time, improve myself, do professional development so I can better serve my clients, and personal development so that I can be a better me, a better me that I want to be. So I really appreciate that. And, one of the things that when people are in a job search, they're focused on salary or career growth, whatever that means. It means different things to different people. For some, it's, the flexible work wherever you want. For some people, it's having the corner office. And I love the idea, as I mentioned to you, the idea of being a holistic career coach, that you focus and help your clients really sort of uncover and tap into what is really most important, what matters most to them. So, I have a little idea of what I'm thinking when I hear holistic career coach, but can you expand on that?
I would love to. I think of two elements when I use the word holistic. One is taking in the whole picture for the client. They're not just their career, but what's going on in their entire life, and even influences. For example, I have had clients that, even if they're in their 40s or 50s, are still influenced by some of their ideas their parents thought should be good for them, or just those values. And so if we can even uncover some limited beliefs, not limited beliefs, but understand where some of this messaging came from, and then ask, do I still believe in that messaging, or is it holding me back in some way? So because I have a master's in holistic counseling, I can sort of bring another level of depth and feel really comfortable asking some of these other questions of my clients to get past some of those obstacles that might not be right on the surface. So that looking at the whole picture is part one. Part two is more about the approach. So I used quite a bit of mindfulness and other sort of holistic and unique approaches or tools or techniques in which I get a chance to help them dig a little deeper. I like to call myself an authentic self excavator. Kind of fun, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Authentic self excavator. I'm helping people bring out who they are. What's that true self? And then where might that thrive the most in the workplace. And so, Annette, if you were my client, I might get to a point where there's some trust, and I could say to you, what if we just do a little guided meditation, imagery, kind of visualization? You could even use that word. Sometimes people get freaked out by the word meditation.
I
So I'll
know.
just say visualization, right? Maybe we could do a short guided visualization where our body and our mind are relaxed. And then I get a chance to ask you questions about an ideal work environment, or how you add value in the world, or what that looks like. Who are who are you working with? What problems are you solving? When we're in that more relaxed, less guarded state, sometimes other ideas that have been blocked can come forth, or more of our true self can be expressed. And that is the sweet spot. So if you were to ask me, what do you love about your work? Because I know you're probably going to ask, it's going to be that going deeper piece and uncovering those important parts that can help someone really figure out their direction. My tagline's finding meaning, making change. So let's uncover what's important, and then let's work strategically to find it and land it. And I'll say one last thing. This bucket of LinkedIn is like one of my favorite tools. So I love that I can help people figure out who they are and what they want, and then use a tool like LinkedIn to really get out there and meet people who are doing the work that they want to do, do that networking and that discovery. So it's just fantastic to have this tool here. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up meditation. I meditated regularly for several years, daily, in
Wow.
a daily practice, and I fell off the wagon, as we do, falling off meditation, exercise wagon, whatever. And it's been coming to my attention recently. It's kind of the universe telling me you need to get back on that wagon again. So I appreciate that, because it is so often. Meditation, when the mind is, clear, where you're seeing thoughts go by, but you're not really focusing on them. And I can understand how it brings that clarity. And, I also often think that, fine, that I get my best ideas sometimes if I'm in the shower, because I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just washing
You're
my hair
relaxed.
and enjoying myself. And I have to run out of the shower and run to the whiteboard in my office and write something down. Maybe a project I've been working on, and something just comes up to me. So, I hear you. People do say, oh, I don't know, vision board or, meditation, but it's so mainstream. A decade ago, maybe not so much, but it is so mainstream right now. And I'd actually like to talk to you a little bit more about that, the techniques that you use. And you mentioned the guided meditation that you do with your clients. And I also saw on your LinkedIn profile that you do assessments, and you mentioned that also earlier. So, there's so many different types of assessments out there, with the strengths, and then there's the MBTI, which I love. I was actually certified for it years ago. And then there's the Enneagram, which I'm just learning about, and the UMAP. And it's like, my goodness, there's so much out there. So how do you choose, which assessments to use, and do they change based on the client?
So perfect question. And I'll give a little backward step just to say
Okay.
a framework that I use for whether it's working with a college freshman to choose a major, or a 60-year-old that's changing careers, which, yes, I've worked with, by the way. So the model that I was taught for career development is nicknamed VIPS, and it stands for values, interests, personality, and skills. Those are elements of us, of ourselves. So if we can dive in and kind of uncover elements of those categories, we're going to have a better roadmap for where that might intersect in the workplace today, for job titles, for career paths, et cetera. And so for values, I send a handout. It's just a values exercise that it's paper and pencil, if you will. For interests, I give a homework assignment to talk about their interests. For personality, I love the Myers-Briggs.
Oh, okay, cool.
Fabulous tool. So I use that. And then for skills, I use something called SkillScan. Have you heard of SkillScan, Annette?
No, I have not.
Okay. So you can go to skillscan.net, I think it is. You can do it as an online tool, and it's even a card sort. I literally have a package of cards that have skill words on them. And so there's different ways to do that exercise, and huge fan. If you're a career coach watching this, go check out skillscan.net as a tool. It ends up helping me help the client, not just with, oh, here are some job titles related to the skills I'm interested in, but we'll take their top 10 skills and flush them out and actually bring them to life. When have you used that skill in the past? When might you want to use it in the future? So I do spend quite a bit of time on the skills itself, because that feels so foundational for career happiness and career change. So those are my core ones. If someone's done DISC or they've done Enneagram, oh goodness, I was going to say, I can reach over to my shelf and say, I've got several books. This is a, real basic one that has a test in it, but you can take it online too.
I did recently. I loved it.
Oh, did you? Oh,
yes, I did. Yes.
We're going to have to talk off live about Enneagram, because it was a lot of personal growth for me 20 years ago when I learned what my type was. Now, trying to think if there's one more. If someone has done their Gallup Strengths, or once in a while, I will ask people to do Gallup Strengths as well. I'm not certified in it, so I'm careful with the things that I'm not certified in. And I also used to use long time ago the Campbell. Haven't used that recently, but that's another good one. So assessments are really key for the work I do, because 90% of my clients are career changers. So wanting to do that deeper dive is such a core part. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
No, it is very interesting to me. I fell into the career field in the first place 20 years ago. I was working as a magazine writer, and I did that for years and worked freelance and all different kinds of things. And I decided to go back and get a master's in psych. And that's how I landed in the career field, because the first job that I found as I was, finishing up my degree, was at a training and placement facility for the chronically mentally ill. And I was a vocational counselor there, and we worked with the strong. And I think that was the main assessment that we used there. And it was a lot of career development, and it was not a facility where we were getting people ready to do not mainstream. It was preparing people for mainstream positions. So we did a little business training, business skills training and stuff like that. And that's how I fell into this. So, I have a great love of assessments and understanding, kind of who we are and what makes us tick. So we'll have to have more of a discussion on that. But so you had mentioned the idea just now of helping people with their career transitions, and also with their students picking out their majors. And I wanted to know a little bit, because you work with both audiences. Is there a huge difference in your approach? Because it seems to me that there would be, but
right now, my biggest audience is in my coaching work is people that are in their maybe mid 30s to mid 60s, right? Like,
okay,
retirement. Backing up, I spent 16 years at Northeastern University in their career design department, and I spent 1.5 years in Harvard School for Public Health. And so I worked with students and alumni at Northeastern, and then I worked with grad students at Harvard. But the tools that I'm using, whether it's a student, a graduate student, or an alum, those assessments are often the same. But I might add on some more maybe journaling exercises that might be asking them to really look at something more deeply, for somebody who's a bit older and also it depends on the individual. If they're self-reflective and they want to have that process. Annette, one time I could tell there was a real issue around money with one of my clients. I actually asked her to write a letter to money, not about money. So it was like, I don't know that, I think if I said that to a 20-year-old, they'd be like, huh? So, and I've only assigned that once. So, that's a little bit unusual, but we got a lot of hangups about money. Let's be real.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So let's unearth it. Let's find out what that's about and see if we can figure out what those beliefs are and then work with them, right? Got to uncover them first. So yeah, that would be my answer, is that there's a lot of similar tools, but then everybody is an individual. and I create things on the spot, which is one of my favorite parts about my work. I'm highly intuitive, and when I sink in with my clients, stuff will just come up, and some of the things that comes out of my mouth, I'm sometimes like, oh my goodness. But sometimes there's these amazing synchronicities with, even one time I was saying to a client, well, you don't just have to go to networking events to meet new people. Why don't you do something like, have you ever thought about taking a sailing lesson? She's like, actually, that's on my list. I've been thinking about, how did you know that? How did you say? I'm just like, well, I'm picking up sailing. I don't know. So there's these moments that are really synchronistic and wonderful in the work I get to do. So I'm going off on tangents, but I'll pull it back.
No, that's great because I also wanted to talk to you about networking, and I just want to say, you're getting applause here, but people are not commenting. But I see people applauding what you're saying here, so which is wonderful. But if you have questions, if you have comments, please put them in the chat. We can see them back here in the studio, and perhaps I'm sure Sabrina would be happy to comment if you have a question you'd like to ask her. And one of the things that I mentioned to you that I wanted to talk about was the idea of networking. And people, I think they have such a I don't know. I'm thinking a terrible, really, thought about networking. I have friends of mine that say, "Oh, I'm looking for a job. I have to network again. Oh my goodness." And it's so awful. And they think of it as very being transactional. Okay, I need something. So I am going to go out and network to find someone to give me that something. And what people, I think, do not realize, or they just doesn't dawn on them. And you mentioned the sailing lesson. If I'm looking for a new vet, I'd go to ask my friends. If I'm looking for a new hairstylist, I ask my friend. Well, that's networking. The last time we refinanced our home, who do we have work with us? Someone that I met a decade ago at a networking event. And I think it's such a tragedy, really, that people think of it in that transactional way. So and you mentioned on LinkedIn the idea of community. So can you talk just a little bit about maybe just networking in general and this idea of community?
Yeah, even my networking workshop, I'll call it building community, building and building career connections. And so if we can reframe it, and if we can do networking when we don't need it, but if we can reframe it and call it community building, call it life enhancing, call it staying connected, call it discovery, call it curiosity. If we can, let go of that phrase, networking, oh, I have to network, and move past it, reframe it into another form, but then also try and do it when you don't need it. Check in with the colleagues that you worked with 5 years ago. Maybe you do it once a year. Maybe you drop them a quick note. Here's one of mine. I came back. I'm originally from Michigan. I came back from Michigan, and I had this one photo of this little beach. The beach was quite small, and it was like 20 minutes from the house that I was staying at. And I took the snapshot. And then while I was interacting with a couple of colleagues when I got back from my trip, I dropped in that picture. And I just said, this was one highlight from my trip to Michigan. I was 20 minutes from this sweet little beach and got to have a few quiet moments here. How's your summer been? And so it's like, can we just have these little interactions here and there to maintain our network? And the last piece beyond this community building attitude would be having the attitude, how can I help? That takes the pressure off. This is what I need. And so if you shift your energy and you say, how can I help? That's such an organic and beautiful way to grow your network. Mm-hmm. So those would be things off the top of my head for that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And so many people, they go with the expectation, and I'm just reading a book right now, and people go with the expectation when they go to a networking event that if they're a business owner, maybe they're going to be selling their services. Or if they're looking for a job, they're going to be looking for someone who can connect them with someone at one of their target employers or something like that. And, they have these expectations and the idea of transaction. And if they go without expectation, with no expectation that maybe you will just meet someone, who is going to be a friend, and I also find that people think of LinkedIn, and I know you train in LinkedIn. People think of LinkedIn, I think, even more of a transactional type of situation. And I have friends. I have a close friend who I met because I connected with her on LinkedIn 10 years ago.
I
So,
do too. Yeah, I've got a couple now that are like really dear to me. And
yes.
we never would have met if it hadn't been LinkedIn. And one of them in particular was a story where I specifically reached out to help this perfect stranger with something. And I said, well, this is too hard to explain online. Give me a call. I'll walk you through it for 5 minutes. Just a fellow career coach. Fast forward like 5 years, he was actually attending my wedding,
Yeah.
like, and I had a small wedding. So this person became really dear to me. How wild is that? Now, we're
It,
not on there to find friends, but why not have that friendly attitude? And you never know what might happen.
well, I have many friends that I met on different social media platforms, Clubhouse. I have friends all over the world that I met there, and people on LinkedIn. Um, and it's really it's the mindset that people have when they go on there, and you hear things like, well, LinkedIn isn't Facebook, but if I share pictures of my dogs, people love it. Right? And it's the same thing. And I think that's part of the idea of building that community of people want to know who you are, right?
Got to show a little bit of yourself. Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things too that I wanted to ask you, and is the idea. I saw that you have wellness as create wellness strategies. And since we're here, our umbrella topic is talking about stress in the job search. Um, is that the impetus that had you incorporate the whole wellness into the career coaching, or did that come from somewhere else?
Well, I think it was that I was starting to recognize I was doing it naturally, addressing stress proactively in my coaching appointments. Then I started saying, maybe I need to make this more grounded, more foundational. And so I have right on my website that a little piece of our coaching will be for you to have a well-being or wellness strategy. If we address stress proactively, we're more likely to stay motivated. We're
Hmm.
more likely to feel better. We're more likely to be successful in our communications, whether that's bantering in a Zoom group thing, like, oh, you can actually network in Zoom chat, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
or whether you're in an interview, that's the extreme example, or doing an important presentation at work. So if we address our stress, we can show up better in life. And so I took and I not came up with, no one's going to say these are new, but I have 4 buckets that I talk about with clients. And I'll spend 5 or 10% of our coaching time each week doing kind of check-in about an individual's well-being. The buckets are movement and exercise. Don't sit for more than 90 minutes on your laptop, at your desk, right? Oh my God.
Guilty.
Ah, one of my one of the people I was talking to the other day is like, okay, my client said, I better put a sticky note up because he gets into the tunnel, right? And he's like, it really wants to stay productive and not break it. But your body needs to move and you'll be more productive if you break that screen time, even if it's walk into the kitchen, pour a glass of water, come back. But I'm known to do 5-minute walks. One of my other clients, we thought we'd have some fun with this. Mondays and Fridays, a little alarm goes off and it says walk for 6 minutes. 6 just because it's obscure, so it's more memorable, right? So she gets up and does at least a 6-minute walk twice a week. And that's her way to make sure she's getting outside, etc. Anyway, so movement and exercise, with cardio being a favorite too, because we know that endorphins release and that's great. So movement exercise is one. The second is a huge bucket, social emotional. But I talk to people about who are their supports, who can you talk to when you're having a hard time? If we can, kind of vent and feel supported when we're having a bad day. If that rejection letter comes in, oh my gosh, do we have someone we can share that with? And so some people have smaller networks of friends, and I do some little nudging to get them to go take that sailing class because
Hmm.
you're going to meet people. I just signed up for pickleball because I was like, you know what? I'm not meeting very many new people. I've got great friends, but it's good for me to stretch. So I'm playing pickleball. And I did it last night in 91-degree weather, which is amazing that I could
Oh my
actually pull it
goodness.
off.
It's so hot here too. My goodness.
But that social emotional bucket, really great. And then the last two are nutrition and sleep. And I shared with Annette that last night I had a terrible night's sleep. 3 o'clock in the morning, I was still awake. So sleep is one of my things that from time to time is really rough. And so that's one of the things I'm working on myself. Quick side note, I've learned sugar, caffeine, and then, your screen time really all can affect those nutritional elements can really affect your screen time is not a nutritional element, but the sugar and the caffeine, even earlier in the day, some people are affected by it. So just things to kind of think about and pay attention to. Then that last category, yeah. So nutrition, movement, social, and sleep. If we can kind of keep an eye on those, we're going to be happier. Our stress is going to be lower. We're going to be more productive in our work. Any other things that you use for your stress reduction? Can I throw the question back at you? Because it's kind of fun to hear. What are your faves?
Of course. So I have a Peloton, and so
Oh,
I love my Peloton, but I fell off of the exercise wagon. I mean, I had a good reason. I had foot surgery in April, so I was not able, to even walk for a couple of weeks. And then, tough getting around, but I can do it now. I can't do it for as long. And it's so difficult whenever you, at least for me, when I fall off of doing something, you get in the habit and you do it regularly. And then when you take too long of a break, for me, now it's been several months, and I've been on the bike a few times, but not as regularly, as I was before. Certainly, I was so proud when I got my Century, shirt that I had done, 100 rides. And, it's a lot of fun with the music and everything for me because I love music. But what as far as, and I was going to ask you, what are some ways to kind of stay on that habit track, but also when you're talking about nutrition, I'm wondering if you're thinking of being sort of healthy-ish, not necessarily, nothing but whole grains and no
Yeah.
meat and everything. But
When I say nutrition, first of all, for that very first session, I let clients pick the category that they feel like they have the energy to make an impact on and what could help them.
cool.
And so not everybody, some of my clients are like, Sabrina, I don't need any coaching on nutrition. I'm good. I'm blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, great, fantastic. And then other clients, it might be, okay, that candy jar that's on my colleague's desk loves me. And so we set a small goal. All right, I'll ask them, how many little candies do you want per week? Okay, this person's in the office 3 times a week, hybrid, right? So maybe they say, I'm going to try and only do it 2 times a week. Like, this is the other thing. This is going to come up in a second, but making small goals you can commit to is a big part about being successful and also reducing stress. So I have 2 other clients that will do food prep on Sundays because then they're more in control and they're less likely to, they'll prep several meals on a Sunday for the week.
Mhm.
They're less likely to do the takeout. They're less likely to do, well, there's Doritos are right there and I could do that and have a piece of toast, So that planning ahead. So I'm not going to go into nutrition unless people want to talk. I've learned a ton, but if people want to talk more specifics, I can. But mostly it's the bigger buckets. We know if we're not drinking enough water during the day. Okay, so what can we do? Can we have a little alarm that goes off that says, or put a big, put a 2-liter bottle and then say, I want to at least get through that in a day or 2. Measuring it can help us a lot, right?
And there's apps for everything. I just started reusing a water app, that reminds me, okay, time to drink some water. And so, I have been reaching my goal because I have that app. And so, I think there's so many little things like that that can remind us. And the idea of nutrition, I certainly hear that, the idea of prepping on the weekends, because it is tough. And I find if I'm working late, because I'm a pretty good cook, my husband, not so much. So, if I'm working late, if I'm still sitting at my desk at 7:30 because I have something that's new, it's McDonald's. I mean, it's
Mm.
McDonald's. And and I hear you so much about, oh, that bag of Doritos. If I'm having a rough day, boy, that bag of potato chips is it for me. Let me just grab that. And so what advice do you have? And also the idea of the small goals, because people are like, oh, well, I'm going to exercise every day for a month. I'm joining the gym. Yeah, that lasts for, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks or something. The same idea of posting on LinkedIn or something like that. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to, every single day, I'm going to post. So how do people figure out what is doable for them?
Well, when I'm working with people, I will actually say, let's set this homework assignment, but make it completely doable. And then if you exceed it, you get to come and brag to your coach. So if we start really low and start simple, so it's like, okay, I just need to start with reaching out to 2 people about a potential informational interview in the next 2 weeks before I see you again. And it's just, sometimes we break it down even further. Write the message that you're going to send, and we'll talk about it, and then you'll send it. So if we can make it, I'm all about make micro progress. And then here's the other thing: celebrate small wins. Woohoo! I drank 4 glasses of water today. Yes. Mark it on a calendar when you get those 2 informational interviews sent out. The other thing is you can have an accountability partner. Okay, I'm meeting up with Annette on Friday, and we're going to talk about, we both run businesses, and I hate doing my bookkeeping. I'm going to let her know whether or not I got my chore done. And it may even be as simple as a text message. Where are you at? So if we've got friends along the journey, we break it into micro pieces, we celebrate, and even celebrate to the point where you can give yourself rewards. Okay. Not just a reward when you land the job, a reward when you've written a really good cover letter. Okay. Now I'm going to go to that, whatever event that I've been, looking forward to, or go check out that show, or whatever it is, like something that could be fun. Well, it could be a food item too, but whatever. Recognize it. I want to say chocolate because that's my downfall. Like, I'm going to reward myself with dark chocolate with almonds. That's another just way to kind of keep it going. The job search can be really lonely, and it can be really nebulous. And so we really need ways to connect with people and feel a sense of reward along the way, or else it gets us so down. And there's days you just need to take a break, and you just need to say, okay, I got to go to the beach today. I don't care if it's Wednesday. This is what I need to do for my well-being, for my spirit. And then I might feel a little more energy, and then I can go back to it on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So recognize that those are actually okay to do. Don't beat yourself up. Realizing you're filling your tank back up so that then you have some motivation and some energy for the next day.
Oh, I so agree with you. And I think that's one of the benefits of going to, there's job seeker groups everywhere. I mean, they're all over the place. Libraries have them. They're all over, where I live. I speak at them all the time. And some people have said to me, well, I don't want to go to a job seeker group because, nobody there is working, and it's transactional, the whole transactional thing. Someone is not working, but it is the finding maybe an accountability partner, someone that you can just kind of share what's going on with. And then the third thing, if you want to, the more even selfish thought is, if a recruiter contacts me, I used to work as a recruiter. I did that for a few years. And if I contact someone, the job may not be right for them, but it might be right for someone else. And so, that's a place where you may be able to exchange leads and things like that. But I think you can't discount the social aspect of it.
Yeah, it's definitely both the social aspect and then how you can help each other. And even if someone's not working, and even if they're not in your field, their next door neighbor might be working at your dream company. So never dismiss anyone. I mean, don't dismiss anyone anyway.
Yeah, I know.
But on top of that, you never know how fruitful it could be or how you might be able to help them. Let me tell you, those helping others it often circles back to you in surprising ways. It
Yeah.
just does. It's just a interesting, thing that I see happen all the time. So, yeah.
Well, I love that you mentioned that because it just brought one other thought to my mind before I wanted to ask you a couple of other things. But the if I'm going to my office, if I'm working in corporate and I'm going to my company picnic, well, I know a lot of the people there. If I go with my spouse or partner to their event, I'm going to meet people who I don't already know, people who, you don't know who knows who. And it's such an advantageous networking. I mean, I think networking is kind of everywhere. I would guess, because I am like this, that I talk to people at the grocery store. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
standing
you
in
do.
line and I'm talking to people at the grocery store. I'm at Trader Joe's. And if I'm looking at a product and somebody's standing there and then they have it in their basket, I'll ask them, well, what do you think of that? I've been thinking about getting, my husband drives him crazy because he's like so shy. But and I would guess that you might be like that as well.
Yep. I am outgoing and willing to sort of just strike up conversations. And I feel blessed to feel at ease, even if I am out of my element. I can just sort of say, oh, that's okay. What am I learn in this moment or what have you? Yeah.
I think it's so important for people to step out of their comfort zone. I mean, it
Mhm.
can be so empowering to do something that you're unsure of, and and it gets easier every time. So I do want to ask you, and you mentioned this briefly before. What do you enjoy most about what you do? What is the thing that gives you the most joy?
In the one-on-one coaching, it's that I get to go pretty deep and be really present for another person. And if they can even have in our time together a small baby aha that gets them a tiny bit more joy or contentment or alignment, then I feel like I've used my gifts in the right way. And, I'm learning even just being witness to someone's process, even if they're going through struggle and I can't necessarily, I can't take away their pain, but I can be a witness to the challenge and the struggle. And it feels like that adds value to just the presence part. So that's kind of an interesting one. And then with the group work, with the speaking, if I can have a small bit of motivation for someone, or a little tiny takeaway at a keynote event, or here's the other thing: if I can help connect people and bridge them, even in my virtual sessions, I'm thrilled. Should see me at the end of like a LinkedIn training. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go, and everybody put your LinkedIn here on this Jamboard and reach out to everyone else and see if you can do a practice informational interview. Building community within even a virtual webinar is another such a sweet spot for me. So depth and community and presence would probably be 3 keywords for me. Thanks for
I
asking.
love it. I love it. And so I ask every person that comes on my show, what is something about you that would surprise people?
Something about me that would surprise people. I'm just trying to think. I can't believe it. I'm having trouble thinking of something.
Well, I mean,
I'll be
go ahead.
really vulnerable for a minute.
Okay.
And that is that, our coaches and our speakers and our teachers can all come on, and especially in these kinds of settings, and look all put together and on all that stuff. So it's really good to just say what's surprising is that I deal with anxiety. I deal with insomnia. Annette was throwing on new questions before we even got together. And I was like, I can't do that today. My brain's not working. So I have limitations and stressors. And so if you're dealing with anxiety or insomnia or any other sort of challenges, just know you're not alone. And the
Mhm.
more we talk about that kind of stuff, the less stigma and the less issues and the less, I don't know, the less hard it is. And there's this phrase we teach what we most need to learn. And this is why I love the neuroscience. This is why I love learning about psychology. And I love to learn how I can better address challenges for myself, because then I can help my clients as well. So I ride with them in that journey. So it's really good.
Oh, I love that. I love that you know, that we teach what we want to learn. I love that. So I'm gonna borrow that.
Yeah.
And you know, I do see that for myself, certainly. But one of the things, and I was just going to ask you something and it just went right out of my mind. Oh, I know what I was going to say is, you know, I've talked to a lot of people on this show and just in general, because, you know, we all talk, people in the career field, we all talk about stuff. And imposter syndrome seems to be, you know, a big thing, and people talk about that. And my personal feeling is, if you're not ever feeling like an imposter, there's something not right there, because I don't know anyone, even the most successful people that I have spoken to, who feel it sometimes. And I think that your point about knowing that you are not alone is so important, because people do, they think, oh, well, I'm, you know, I'm nervous, or, you know, I'm nervous about posting on LinkedIn because what will people think? Or, and everybody feels that at one point or another.
Absolutely. And I'll say this even, if you've never experienced imposter syndrome, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. You're staying right in your comfort zone, right?
Yep.
So if we're never feeling that, it means we're not growing. And
Yep.
so in fact, if you were to say, you know, final comments, it would be like, don't stay in your comfort zone, but don't go into the freak out zone either. Find ways to be in that stretch zone. So it's like comfort zone, stretch zone, freak out zone. Stay in that stretch zone for progress, for growth, for challenge. That would be one of my sort of final like little tips, is to stretch yourself, but then also have the support, and don't stretch yourself so far that you kind of go, oh my gosh, I can't do this.
No, I thank you for that. And we are just about winding down here. And so, you know, I always like to ask, we've talked about a lot of different things today. Is there anything that I have not asked you that you think would be important to share? And, you know, if you could share that now.
Sure. Let's see. I would say just the idea of taking a little bit of your time and your energy and putting it into your time for well-being. It's so easy to just push through things, but our nervous system, okay, the way it operates, I've been hanging out way too long in the sympathetic nervous system. That's that fight flight. And that's what created some anxiety and some sleep issues. And it's like, oh, okay, wait a second. I have to do this self-care, this well-being focus to make sure I'm in the parasympathetic nervous system. That's called rest and digest. So I know we're such a culture that strives and pushes and expects so much of ourselves, but take these little tiny timeouts and put in that self-nourishment. It will come back and support you to be a better person, more effective in your work, more productive, but really recognize that we've got to have that well-being in our core for that happiness and for that productivity. So yeah, make time for it is what I would say, especially in the job search.
Well, I thank you so much. It's been such a treat chatting with you. And thank you to everyone who has been out there listening. I know that I've seen some people applauding as we go along. So you're out there. And I thank you so much for spending your time with us. Have a great rest of your day. And I will be back here next week at 11 a.m. Eastern.